So here's a rumor that I heard this weekend from a very viable source that I do trust. And when I heard it, it kind of made me worried in a lot of very uncomfortable ways. So the rumor that I heard was Marvel Comics had a month where none of their titles sold more than 80,000 copies. Okay, so let's really dig deep into that statement, because that's one of those moments where I go, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Now, just to put in some context so you understand this, I am 52 years old. I'll be 53 in August. I've been collecting comic books as a true collectible fan since probably 1980, 1981. We'll say 1981, make it easy, so 40 years. I've been involved in this industry in one way or another. When I was a kid, Marvel had an incentive plan, and DC also, don't not just pick one or the other, but they had an incentive program that writers and artists made a percentage if they sold over a certain amount of books. And I think it was 1 cent for the writer, 1 cent from the artist, and then they'd break it down to other people. But that's the important thing. Now, the threshold to reach that minimum was 100,000 copies. I know that Captain America was selling around 200 to 250,000. If my math is still right, it's been a while. And I know X-Men were doing, I think as well as that, but I think they're doing better. I think they're doing 400,000, maybe even 500,000. But you had to make the 100,000. And to be honest with you, a lot of people at that point, in the 80s, that was the number that you got a book canceled at. So now we have a situation 40 years later that these guys can't even make sales higher than 80. So if that's true, what are the numbers these books are selling at? Because when I was a kid, it used to always be in the February, March issue. They have in the indicia, they tell you how many they sold, newsstand. I don't think they do that anymore. I haven't seen it in a long while. People online do it, but I know at one point they used to have to do it. It was actually kind of interesting. You could tell from sales. So, if books aren't selling 80,000 copies, and we're talking $4 books, let's go crazy. Let's say 80,000 times 4 makes what? Anyone? 320,000. Okay. So let's use some fun math. 320,000 divided by 2, but you got to sell to the distributors that they get for 50% off. So that leaves 160,000. Cut it in half again because of printing and everything else. Let's say 80,000. Now, a lot of people like saying, oh, that's good money, 80,000. But remember what I told you before, how many they used to sell. And 80,000 is at the top end of this. So the first question I'm going to ask is, what happened to all those people who used to buy comic books? Number one. Number two, pricing must have some effect on sales. It just has to. In this day and age, I don't care what you're saying. Pricing versus the entertainment I get. I'm sorry. This doesn't make any sense. This is not good. And I'm hoping this isn't something that continues, because I don't know about you, but if these numbers are as bad as I think they are, a good selling comic book might be 50,000. A great selling is if you get to maybe 80. Those aren't good numbers. I mean, honestly, I'm going to guess those numbers are down by a factor of 80% compared to 40 years ago. And even worse, the price has increased at least 4 to 5 times. So we got a problem. I mean, you tell me. Just 80,000 copies of a comic book like the X-Men sound like a good deal to you? And I mean, how many books are we talking that Marvel has in its line that couldn't sell 80,000 copies? What, 50 some odd different books? You couldn't get X-Men to sell 100,000 copies? The X-Men? I mean, hell, Avengers? Okay. I can kind of understand that slightly. But the X-Men? Really? I'm just saying, just something to think about. Because if those numbers are true, and like I said, they came up when I was listening to someone else's podcast, and I don't know if they're 100% true, but if they're even close, you might want to rethink what your plans are with comic books. Just saying. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you do us a huge favor, if you like what we talked about, click the thumbs up button below. If you hated what I talked about, then click the thumbs down. We're good either way. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you all later.